So this is called 弹拧子. It means flick the screw. For those of you who do Aikido or Aiki Jiu-Jitsu, doesn't this kind of look like a kote gaeshi? Now, if you watch it again, you'll see there's a foot aspect of it that you don't have in kote gaeshi. Talking about foot, my foot got stung by a bee, so I can't really walk anywhere. So let's listen to this Shuijiao instructor and see how similar or different it is from the Aikido version. With any technique, look at how the footwork is so important. He steps a leg and then steps another leg behind. Our man's Mandarin is really hard to understand, but I wanted to subtitle that segment to hear it from his own mouth. Notice he's saying this is a very hard technique. I think that's the first difference between this and kote gaeshi. From my understanding, and Ruckus or anyone else that does Aikido, correct me, kote gaeshi is kind of a basic technique in Aikido, right? It's one of the first probably 6 or 7 techniques you learn in Aikido. But from this guy's Chinese ancient version of kote gaeshi, it's not an easy technique. So that's the first distinction I want to highlight. So he is having the uke grab his wrist, right? Which a lot of Aikido attacks start to. Notice he kind of takes 2 hands and grabs the uke's wrist back. And notice he's turning the uke's wrist up. And now he can kind of control the uke's hand, the uke's wrist. So then the footwork is super important. Look at this. So now he steps one back. Notice he's sort of off balance as he kicks with the other one. So this is very important. And if you look at the footwork earlier, you can see that there's a lot of angling and weight shifting to this. Now, do you see why this is a very technical, hard move? Because you're not just doing the kote gaeshi, you're also combining it with almost like a foot sweep. So this requires understanding of wrist manipulation on top of understanding of footwork and on top of understanding of each other's center and each other's balance. So now the instructor teaches a higher percentage finish. Look at that. So he's grabbing the collar instead of using 2 hands on the wrist. So that makes sense. Collar plus wrist plus sweeping the foot. That's 3 points of manipulation of the person's center. The wrist grab one, you're using the wrist to try to off balance him, and then you sweep the foot. To further illustrate this point, let's see the student try and do it wrong, and then the instructor corrects him. So watch the student try, but look at that. He doesn't off balance the uke enough. So now look at the instructor explain. You have to do an arc, so that way the opponent's weight is only on one leg. That's the key. If the opponent's weight is on one leg, then you can sweep them. So what he's saying is, you see that? That wrist manipulation, that wrist grab, the primary purpose is to off balance him. So now look at the student try it. This time, you see, he's got it. He's got it. And let's just appreciate the footwork again of the instructor. Look at him teaching you the footwork. The flick, the tan, is both a kick and a wrist drag. I know Aikido purists are going to be like, in Aikido, and I think that's why Aikido fails a lot, is because you're relying on one little thing to both connect and control someone's center to then do whatever, whether manipulate them or take them down. What you see in this Shuijiao tutorial is you have more than one major lever, especially when he also grabbed the collar. He gave himself 3 lever points to connect to the center and take someone down. I think what we can see from this, the more connection points you give yourself, the more there's room for error, and the more there's room for what I call muscling or aggression. If you're only doing 1 point of connection, then the technique has to be perfect, and you have to use what we call Aiki energy or whatever that's called nowadays. You have to really be of the right intention and the right mindset, and it gets woo-woo really quickly. To practice Aikido, it almost makes sense to learn something like Judo or Shuijiao. First, learn the fail-safe ways of doing the technique, and then you remove certain points of connection to get to the bare minimum. And whether Aikido is sort of doing that, or Aikido was just lost in translation. Kotegaeshi could be a descendant or a modified version of a Tanningzi. I hope you guys enjoyed this little exploration. Again, I promise you guys a lot more tutorial explanations and translations. Who knew we'd potentially shed some insight into Aikido?
Kotegaeshi is learned as one of the main first Aikido techniques, and I don't think it's that hard. I mean, obviously, as any technique, if you want to pull it off, you need to learn it. But essentially, the mechanics behind it are not that difficult unless he has a very complex way to get to the technique, to set it up, which I think is the key to making a technique work to begin with. But I don't know. I have to see. I'm surprised if somebody says this is like a super difficult technique.